Okay, listen, we need to have a serious conversation about something that's going on right now in the fight against critical race theory, and I'm just going to say up at the front of this video, I'm going to get frustrated in this video because there are people in this fight that are behaving grossly irresponsibly, and if I'm not directing it at you, then my frustration is if you are not doing the things I'm going to talk about in this video, this is not directed at you. It's not. But for those people who are doing things like calling critical race theory anti-white and trying to frame critical race theory as an anti-white movement, you need to stop right now. You need to stop. It is not helpful. It is not going to advance this fight. It is not going to win anything. What you're going to end up doing is creating an actual white power movement in this country. And that's not even the only reason. The first reason that we shouldn't be framing this as an anti-white thing is because it's not true. It is too simplistic of an argument when critical race theory really has nothing to do with race to begin with. It has to do with power, and I'm going to explain that in this video. But not only is it too simplistic, it is actually dangerous because I right now on my Twitter have actual, real white supremacists and racists thrilled with the idea of critical race theory being framed as anti-white. They are thrilled with this idea. And furthermore, you are giving the left and the woke exactly what they want. They are baiting you into this argument and you are falling for it because you're not thinking about the bigger picture. All right, so there are 3 reasons, probably more than that, but we're going to focus on 3 reasons that we should absolutely not under any circumstances be framing critical race theory as anti-white. The first reason is that it's not. That's not what it is. Critical race theory is not anti-white. Critical race theory is anti everyone that disagrees with critical race theory, whether you are black, brown, white, Asian, whatever. It does not matter. If you disagree with critical race theory, they are going to treat you as an enemy of the movement, and this is evidenced by an article that appeared in the Washington Post in January calling out multiracial whiteness, which is essentially attacking any person that is not white that does not agree with them. This is not about race. This is only about keeping people divided and at each other's throats because using race is an easy way to spin people up and get them upset, and then you have a clear enemy. Either you're racist or you're not. That is what this is about, and they're doing it for the purposes of destabilizing our systems and our society so that they can come in and build their little Maoist utopia. That's what they're doing. And every single time that you frame this as being anti-white, you are playing right into their hand, which is point number 2. You are playing directly into their hands. They want you to be racist. They want you to be running around like Marjorie Taylor Greene, trying to establish a commission or a committee to protect Anglo-Saxon values. I'm sorry, do you know what I am not going to fight for in my state house? I am not going to fight for pro-white legislation. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it. Do you know what is not going to wake people up to what is going on? If we start producing a lot of pro-white content because we're fighting an anti-white ideology, that is not going to work. It is not going to get anyone on our side. It is like the fact that people think that this is the best way to frame this. This is an absolute abject failure of the intellectuals that have been intellectualizing about this phenomenon for years before I ever even knew what was going on. And listen, man, I'll take some responsibility for myself because I haven't done a very good job of explaining what this is and why it has nothing to do with race. I'm currently working on a book about it. That book's not going to be out till next March. And to be quite frank, I could have done more, and I'll own that. But you know who else could have done more? The goddamn intellectuals who are just trying to impress each other with their intellectualization for years, and then that intellectualization goes through the conservative media who don't really understand what they're talking about, and then it gets to the average person. And somewhere in this game of telephone, what has happened is the average person is starting to understand that critical race theory is just anti-white, which is not the truth. And don't tell me, because here's the comment I'm gonna get. They're gonna say, Carlin, you know, real life doesn't happen on Twitter. Don't look at Twitter. I was at an event last night. I was at an in-person event, small little in-person event last night in New Hampshire, where I heard the same damn thing. And I told that person the same thing that I'm telling to you. You have got to stop framing this as an anti-white argument. You are not going to get people on your team with an anti-white argument. And in addition to that, it's not even the truth. It's not even the truth. I'll go back to point number one, because I'm doing this without a script. I'm doing this just off the top of my head. I'll go back to point number one. It's not even the truth. If we want to talk about what multiracial whiteness is to them, we can also talk about the fact that critical race theory is incredibly racist. Not just against people who look like me. It is incredibly racist against black and brown people. It is incredibly racist against Asian people. We could talk about the fact that critical race theorists don't believe that black people are capable of going to the DMV and getting a driver's license. We could talk about the fact that they don't believe that black people are capable of hard work or showing up on time, who need to be coddled at every corner. We could talk about the fact that they're literally applying different college admission standards to Asian Americans, making it more difficult to them to get into college when they're applying easier standards to everyone else, including white people. That is an actual example of systemic racism. Critical race theory is not just racist against white people. It is racist against everyone. It is racist against everyone. Framing it as anti-white is exactly what they want you to do. It's exactly what they want you to do. Because then they can point and go, oh, look at those racists. We told you they were racist. You've got to stop taking the bait with this shit. I understand that it is an easier definition to understand. I get it. But you know what? You know what someone said to me on Twitter today? It's like, Carlin, you're just saying this because you haven't defined critical race theory. If you are looking for a definition of critical race theory, I literally did a video on it yesterday. It is literally pinned to the top of my Twitter feed right now. Here is the definition of critical race theory. Critical race theory is an ideology that started in academia in the 1970s that says racism exists everywhere, in every person, in every interaction, in every institution, and the job of the critical race theorist is to suss out how, not if, how racism occurred in every circumstance, because racism is always assumed to have occurred. That is the very basis of systemic racism. Did you hear me say anti-white? No. No, you did not. What I said was racism. And racism can be directed at any group. It can be directed at white people. It can be directed at black people. It can be directed at Asian people. It can be directed at Hispanic and Latino people. It can be directed at anyone. It would never even occur to me to use anti-white in my definition. You want to know why? That brings us to point number 3. This is actually a dangerous approach. And this is one of the things I've talked about on an ongoing basis for months now. I've seen this being spun up for months. I am actually afraid that the fight against critical race theory is going to form an actual, real white power movement in this country. Listen, the KKK has like a couple thousand people. There is not a real white power movement in this country, but there will be if you keep this up. You want to know why? Because life is about balance. Human beings have an incredible way of balancing things out. When the pendulum swings too far in one direction, it can swing right back in the other direction. And what I have always been worried about is the fight against critical race theory is actually going to manifest a white power movement in this country, which is exactly what the left wants. That's what they want. They are not fighting racism. Racism is their god. If they ever defeated racism, they would have nothing else to do. They are only interested in perpetuating it. And when you are coming along and saying critical race theory is an anti-white ideology, you are only playing into their hands and doing exactly what they want you to do. And that type of talk is going to create an actual white power movement in this country. Is that what you want? It's not what I want. Not what I want in any way, shape, or form. I didn't sign up to fight against this because I thought this was anti-white. I signed up to fight against this because it's anti-human. It is incredibly racist. It only seeks to keep human beings down. It only seeks to keep human beings under the thumb of the people who are using it to keep themselves in power while they keep us fighting each other. That is the only reason I signed up to do this. You might have different motives, and who knows, maybe some of you would be perfectly okay if an actual white power movement started in this country, but I am not. You've got to stop. You've got to stop. You make this choice. No one makes it for you. And if you are committed to having the easiest possible explanation for something that is actually far more complex and nuanced, even when people like me are delivering you a definition on a silver goddamn platter, a definition that works, a definition that's been tested in the real world, then that is on you. Then you are not a serious person. I'm sorry. I am on no, like, if you are using the critical race theory is anti-white as an argument, you and I are not on the same team. I am not going to fight for you. I'm not going to have your back. I'm going to tell you to cut that shit out. Because it is completely, not only is it completely unnecessary, it is also wrong and it is also dangerous. So many people in this game are just grifting on this idea to make money. I happen to not be one of them. If you don't want to support me, then don't. Don't watch my videos. Don't join my locals. Don't do any of those things. I don't really care, but I'm not going to go run around and spin up a bunch of conservatives who aren't paying close enough attention by saying critical race theory is anti-white. That's what these goddamn conservative influencers are doing. That's what they're doing right now. Critical race theory is not anti-white. Critical race theory is anti-everyone who disagrees with it. That is what it is. And every single time you frame it as being an anti-white ideology or phenomenon, you are only hurting those of us who are actually seriously trying to end this. I have never wanted to give up so much as I have today. I'll tell you what, my feed on Twitter is literally filled with actual white supremacists who are overjoyed that people are saying that critical race theory is anti-white. They just found their new recruiting pool. Congratulations. This is what happens. And the left is to blame for this because they started this. The left was so intent on seeing racism in everything that they are literally manifesting a goddamn white power movement. But it wouldn't be possible if the right wasn't playing into it. You have to make the choice to stop playing into it, to behave responsibly, to look at what is actually going on, and to take a more nuanced approach. Critical race theory does not just hurt white people. Critical race theory hurts everyone. It hurts human relationships. It hurts psychological safety. It causes unearned shame and guilt on everyone. It teaches young black children that they're going to be victims of the world and they'll never get ahead and they'll never be successful. I don't want young black children learning that. That's incredibly racist. That is only going to keep them down. That is only going to set them up to achieve nothing in life because they won't be able to see success as a possibility. This is not about it being anti-white. And anyone who is saying it is needs to stop right now. And if you want to bring that crap onto my channel or into my feed, I'm sorry, I'm going to block you. And there's not going to be any warning. There's just going to be a block because I'm not doing it. I will not. This is hard enough as it is without having to manage people that are actually creating a fucking white power movement. And again, if you are not doing this, that was not directed at you. So I don't want to, Carolyn, not everyone's doing it. I don't care. I don't care. Enough people are doing it. I have hundreds of people in my feed right now doing it, and you need to stop. You need to stop and think about what you're doing and think about the bigger picture. Because I'm not fighting for that bullshit. I'll tell you right now, I'm not doing it. That's all I have. Cut out the bullshit. I'll be back soon.